Welcome back to the Luscious Living podcast. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you today. Today, we're talking all about how to balance your hormones to lose weight, part one. And this is a conversation that has plagued my mind to the point that I prayed that I would be able to help other women one day. I promised to the universe that if I was able to help myself with my weight struggles, that I would dedicate my life to helping other women feel free and confident in their body as well. So I am thrilled to bring to you part one of really talking about hormone health. And there is not enough education about our own hormones and our own bodies, and I'm really here to change that. To get right into things, we're going to talk about three main hormones that really impact weight loss. And I do have a part two as well. So you want to make sure that you do not miss that. That is coming next. And that's really going to help you understand your body, why you get hungry, why you might be gaining weight despite not eating enough or not feeling like you're not eating enough, or why you might be craving sugar, why you might be craving salt, and we're going to get right into it. So we have three different hormones that are going to impact weight loss. And the very first one is going to be insulin. And maybe you've heard about insulin before, and I hope that this conversation continues to grow the awareness around insulin resistance. And this is exactly what is related to prediabetes, diabetes type 2, PCOS, metabolic syndrome. And a lot of times we don't even think about that conversation until we see the glucose levels, the blood levels, blood sugar levels, or we get the diagnosis of prediabetes, and then it's a lot harder. And the beautiful aspect of this is that you can actually have so much impact on your health by knowing some of this information today. Okay, so the very first one is insulin. And essentially, insulin is responsible for regulating blood sugar and fat storage levels. It is a crucial hormone for your metabolism. It helps you to store glucose. It helps your body to digest and store glucose, which is the type of sugar when you eat. So when you eat, whether it's milk, you drink milk, you eat salmon, you're eating a piece of bread, you will always prompt your body to release insulin. Okay, this is normal and healthy. It is, however, when the body starts to release insulin too much, too often. And so, for example, eating a piece of, let's say, white bread or a bagel with nothing else on it is going to have a stronger blood sugar spike as opposed to eating, say, a handful of walnuts. Because anything with more protein, fiber, or healthy fat is going to help you have a slower release for this blood sugar and this insulin. Versus if you have something like a bagel, it is a simple carbohydrate that's going to spike your blood sugar very quickly and then come back down. You're going to feel hungry and tired and maybe cranky after. And so no matter, again, what you eat, you will still be spiking blood sugar, but it's about how much the blood sugar spikes and how long after it spikes. And there are lots of things that we can do about that. And it's when this insulin is constantly being spiked by we're snacking a lot, or we're eating foods that spike blood sugar. This is actually going to start to create a vicious cycle with your weight. So because the more insulin that you have in your body, the more that you will start to store fat. And the more fat you have, the more insulin resistance develops. So meaning your body does not respond to this insulin, because insulin is like the fire truck that goes out that cools everything back down. If you had a lot of sugar, like sugar is the fire, insulin is the fire truck, cools everything back down. But after a while, I want you to think about it as then the fire truck stops responding because it's like false alarm every single time. It's like, it's like the rubber band expanding, and you can only actually stretch the rubber band so often. And this is when we start to have insulin resistance. The body stops responding. And so then it becomes truly this vicious cycle where the more insulin you have, it does slow down metabolism, which makes it easier to gain weight. It does affect how the body processes and stores fat. Then insulin resistance leads to higher blood sugar levels, which impacts heart health. That's going to impact your mood. It's going to impact cognition. Blood sugar is such a big deal, okay? And then, yes, it'll be hard to lose weight. That's a big, big thing. It's like, okay, you might be not eating very much, but clearly there's something going on with blood sugar, okay? So some of the tools to really look at how to navigate having a healthy blood sugar are going to be, first and foremost, eating more fiber. It is recommended to have about 25 grams of fiber per day, and most people are probably getting 10 or less. Because to reach 25 grams of fiber per day, you are going to need to eat whole foods for every single meal at some part. That could be a salad. Beans are extremely high in fiber. Chickpeas, let's say you have a chickpea chicken salad with cilantro and purple cabbage. Then later on for dinner, let's say it's tempeh or salmon or some kind of fish. Then on the side, let's say you had sweet potato, then you had broccoli and asparagus. Like, not just one kind of vegetable. If you can start to incorporate 2 different kinds of vegetable, non-starchy vegetables. So starchy vegetables include sweet potatoes, cooked carrots. We have cooked beets, squashes, versus something like spinach, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower. Those are examples of non-starchy vegetables, and they don't spike blood sugar as much, okay? So having more fiber. Let's say you do have this bagel. There's nothing wrong with a bagel at all. But let's say you add avocado to that. You're adding fat. Then you're adding maybe turkey bacon, or you're adding a chickpea spread. You're adding an egg. Then you're adding protein to it. So then if you were actually to measure your blood sugar, you would notice that if you have the plain bagel versus, let's say, if you had what we just talked about, your blood sugar would be more stable. And anytime you're feeling like you're crashing in the afternoon, you're always craving sugar, you're always a little grumpy or mood swingy, that's going to be blood sugar levels, okay? So that is so important. Let's say even if you added butter to the bagel, it's actually going to be better than having a plain bagel. Something that would make the bagel worse and worse for blood sugar would be adding jam to that without anything else. Let's just say it's plain bagel, add jam. You are going to create a blood sugar spike, okay? And if you find yourself tired around that 10 to 11 a.m. mark, when like really hungry at that time, that's a really good indicator that blood sugar is also a little bit off there, okay? So another point there is to have more protein. The recommended protein, I recommend a little bit higher amount of protein, but I like to have a minimum. This is going to depend on your body weight, your physique goals, your age, but to have a minimum of 60 grams of protein per day. And to give you some context, eggs, for example, 1 egg is about 6 grams of protein, so not very much. A scoop of protein powder, depends on the protein, can be anywhere from 18 plus grams of protein, okay? Chicken breast, a 4-ounce piece of chicken breast, so maybe a little bit less than your palm right here, can be about 36, around that ballpark. And then, of course, plant-based options will always be lower in protein and less bioavailable. So make sure that you account for that. And there's a whole other conversation if you're vegetarian or vegan on getting enough protein as well. Okay, so some sources of protein include, this is, of course, chickpeas, Greek yogurt, okay? We have fish, we have poultry, we have eggs, tempeh, which is a soy product as well. Peanut butter is like, yes, it's a source of protein, but it's pretty high calorie and in ratio to what you would be getting in protein, but it's still definitely a source of protein. Cottage cheese. So those are all sources of protein. And you'll notice the more protein you have, the fuller that you are. But of course, if you overeat anything, you're going to be spiking your blood sugar levels, okay? So then another one is having more sleep and quality sleep. So I read a study, and I can link it below for you, is that getting more sleep is shown to improve insulin sensitivity, which also impacts other hormones that we'll talk about in part 2. Also, several studies have found that green tea might increase insulin sensitivity, which is what you want, and decrease insulin levels, but the results are mixed. I personally love green tea. I drink it all of the time, and I would rather drink it than not. Okay. Another study, 2021 review, demonstrates that omega-3 supplementation can have a significant impact on fasting glucose levels and insulin resistance. Omega-3s can be found in walnuts, in chia seeds, and in fatty fish, for example. I also personally recommend supplementing with a good quality cod liver oil, and having, if you have fish oil, with a wild fish as well. Okay. I personally find that I feel much better when I have more omega-3s in my diet. And then the other piece of this here is daily walks. I live in a very cold climate, okay? So I still believe if you layer up and you get past your own mind, which I always have to do when it's cold out, and I wear my crampons, is having at least a 30-minute walk a day. In North America, it's so much harder to get in movement. It is, because you could literally drive your car to your work or school, drive it back, and not move the entire day. Drive it to the grocery store, right? Because it's far, and we have to consciously make the effort to do so. And so daily physical activity can reduce muscle cells' responsiveness to insulin, and therefore help you with insulin resistance, help you with blood sugar management. So this is absolutely key. Get in a 30-minute walk. And if you can't get a 30-minute walk, which, by the way, when I first started my exercise journey, I was doing 5 or 10-minute walks. There's not a chance that I could mentally be like, yeah, I'm just going to go for a half-hour walk right now. It was just too daunting. It was just too much. It really was. And so now it's easy for me to go on an hour or 2 walk because I love it. And I will, it's just a part of my lifestyle now. Especially, I'm not saying I'm going for 2-hour walks in the winter, but in the summer, I'll go for 2-hour walks, right? But it took me some time to get there. So let's say if you are a woman with PCOS and you're listening to this, I would highly recommend picking one of these tips that you can easily do. And it's like, maybe it's supplementing with a cod liver oil 3 times a week. Maybe it's adding 1 vegetable to your day every day. Or maybe you're like, that seems like a lot. If you add, let's say, broccoli or cauliflower, cabbage, whatever you want, to your week. I want you to start small and then start to be consistent with it, because it's when you have an all or nothing mindset is when you start to feel like you just continue to let yourself down. And I get it, because I've been there. Okay. And that's why I do what I do. So the first one was insulin. The second hormone that is involved with weight gain or an inability to lose weight is cortisol. And I'm sure you've heard about cortisol before. It is your stress hormone. It is so much more than that. It is so important. However, if you start to, the big thing is we'll start to see cortisol weight gain and insulin resistance really in the upper body. Of course, there's genetics involved with that. But I know for me is the lower body was always okay, but it was always the upper body because stress and blood sugar was always off. And of course, one thing I did talk about when it comes to blood sugar is eating sweet foods, which I had a crazy sweet tooth. I still love sweet food. But you will start to notice that insulin starts to hang out in the arms and the chest and the belly. Cortisol hangs out in the belly, and estrogen likes to hang out in the hips and thighs. But we'll get to that. So your stress hormone, survival hormone, maybe you've noticed this, and some people reduce the appetite when they're stressed, but a lot of people also have an increased appetite when they are stressed, okay? Cortisol can impact your sleep, therefore impact your other hormones that really help you with weight loss. Cortisol can make you, too stressed to work out, too stressed to cook healthy meals, because when you're stressed, I don't know about you, but comfort meals is a big thing, right? And so this is absolutely crucial. This is one of the most important things. This has helped me on my weight loss journey, which, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, scroll through my old YouTube videos. I am always astonished at how different I look. At one point, I think I was over 180 pounds, which I'm only 5'5", so I was very overweight for myself, for my own body and comfort. So it's actually pretty crazy. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, go over to the YouTube channel, and I want you to have a look at the difference there. And it's really looking at these hormones. And I see Miss Danielle. Hello, Danielle. It's so nice to see you. I'm doing this YouTube live here, so thanks for joining me. All right. So when it comes to support for cortisol, I want you to first and foremost get enough sleep. And again, if you are, maybe you're breastfeeding, maybe you have young kids, maybe you have a stressful job, maybe you're a night shift worker. This is super easy to say, get enough sleep. You've heard it before. There are so many different aspects of this, and I do have a podcast episode going on in the fall about sleep like a baby, TCM, and science-backed tips to help you with sleep. So make sure you listen to that. There's going to be some tips there that anyone can do. Then considering adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha or rhodiola, these herbs have been scientifically shown to actually help your body cope with stress, okay? So if you have any questions there, let me know, because these herbs are here for a reason. These plants have grown to be allies to us, and they are affordable in many cases. And the nice thing about adaptogenic herbs is that the longer you take them, the more they actually benefit you. Okay, so happy to link some studies there. Another big aspect about cortisol is actually if you start to view sunlight in the morning, ideally before 10 a.m., and even if it's a cloudy day, but you get some kind of sunlight on your skin, can actually help you with your cortisol levels as well. Okay, so now you're helping your body so you can actually have too high levels of cortisol or too low levels, but too low levels is a whole other conversation. A lot of the time, most women have too high cortisol levels because of lifestyle, understandably. And so that can really impact weight gain. Now, the research also points to having stress reduction techniques really help with weight loss. Help with cortisol levels, therefore can help with weight loss. But to be honest with you, I do not like meditating, and I'm sure that will come eventually. But I had a video I posted a few weeks ago about self-soothing without food or alcohol. I recommend that video because sometimes the traditional advice of like journal, meditate, take a bubble bath, those are great and they work. And there are different layers and different ideas as well for you. Okay, so make sure you watch that video and I'll link it for you below. The third hormone, besides insulin, besides cortisol, and again, I do have a part 2 because we have many other hormones that impact weight loss, is going to be the lovely estrogen. So estrogen is the hormone that gives women curves, right? During puberty, we develop the breasts, we develop a little bit more body fat around the tummy to protect the uterus. And this is normal, this is natural. And if you are someone who struggles with weight gain in the hips and thighs, you are likely estrogen dominant, which means you have too much estrogen. And this is one of the most common hormonal imbalances that we see today, that I see in my practice. And so what estrogen dominance looks like is, again, as I mentioned, where the body fat sits. But if you struggle with PMS symptoms, if you have endometriosis, PCOS, you have fibroids, if there's a history of breast cancer, those are all going to be related to estrogen dominance. Again, correlated, and I want you to be extra mindful of that. And so estrogen levels too high create an issue, but also too low levels of estrogen create an issue, which is what we start to see in perimenopause and menopause. Unfortunately, the studies are not very clear on why exactly lower levels of estrogen impact weight gain. There needs to be more studies on women during that time. Surprise, surprise. However, what we do know is that lower levels of estrogen lead to insulin sensitivity. So, meaning if when you were in your 30s, 20s, you could have a bowl of rice, then later on you could have pizza, then you could have, ice cream later on, for example, you are going to be more sensitive and have bigger blood sugar spikes with the same food in your 40s and 50s and 60s beyond than if you did when you're 20s and 30s. Don't shoot the messenger. I love rice and pizza and bread just as much as you do, okay? And it's not to say don't eat these foods, but you will have to be a ninja about your blood sugar. And you might benefit from a lower carbohydrate diet. This is also going to be really important because like healthy foods that are marketed to us, like granolas and cereals as well, might need to be reduced. I'm thinking of some common foods that I see in my practice of women in that age range, or like a protein cookie, for example. It's still going to be cookie. It's still going to spike blood sugar levels. And so now let's talk about if you have high estrogen levels and if you have low estrogen levels, what you should do. Both parties, you will need to make sure you are detoxing properly. And the best way the body does that is through supporting the liver, through the bowel movements, and through sweat. And the biggest one I want to talk to you about right now is bowel movements. If you are not having daily bowel movements and bowel movements that are well formed, you're not experiencing constipation, you're not experiencing loose bowels, or maybe you are doing that, you are actually going to be recycling this estrogen back into your body almost in a toxic form, okay? And so we have to, as women, and men, everyone, have to be using the washroom regularly. And that looks like having adequate water intake. And if you're finding that you're not getting hydrated, I want you to add a pinch of Celtic sea salt in your water. I want you to be taking magnesium. It helps to soften the bowels. A magnesium glycinate, but if you find that you're having a hard time going to the bathroom, a citrate will help you go to the bathroom. And coming back to fiber. Those are absolutely crucial. So again, if you're not detoxing estrogen properly through the bowels, you're recycling it back into your body. And that's when we start to see women where she'll have like a normal body weight, except for the hips and thighs, okay? So there's that. Then the other aspect of this is if you have low estrogen, excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of my tea, is I want you to consume a type of food that's called phytoestrogens. Okay, so these are foods that naturally contain estrogen. My favorite one is flax seeds. Okay, one that's a little bit more controversial is going to be soy products. And I think it's controversial because so many women in the West have too much estrogen already. And then also the quality of the soy products here are not as, I guess it depends on where it's sourced, but that quality matters, organic matters here. So you could add some ground up flax seeds in yogurt. You could have it in a smoothie. You could have maybe a little bit of soy milk, a little bit of tempeh, if you are not estrogen dominant. This is for women perimenopause, menopause. Then if you are also have too much estrogen, I want you to eat cruciferous vegetables like it's your job. And what I mean by cruciferous vegetables is this is the broccolis, the kales, the cauliflower, the Brussels sprouts, cabbage, bok choy, turnip, rutabaga. I want you to have, if you really are struggling with this, at least a cup a day. And if you have bloating or gas from this, just reduce it to half a cup. Make sure all of these vegetables are always cooked as well. So that you can saute them, you can roast them, you can whatever, okay? So really important there. There's so much more that I want to say on estrogen, and this is like my big, I love talking about hormone health, as you probably know, but I want you to take one of these. Make sure your bowel movements are proper, and also make sure that you're having enough cruciferous vegetables. that's it. Like if you're not doing that, that's homework. Okay. So I'd like to end the part 1 here. We talked about insulin, we talked about cortisol, we talked about estrogen. Getting these main hormones in check are going to help you with your weight loss journey. Okay. And you are going to notice, yes, calories matter. I think I was in denial of that for so long. And you can have all your hormones healthy, but if you're eating too much, you're eating too much. Okay. And so that's a whole other conversation. But if you could be eating the right amount, and then your hormones are going to get in the way of lasting results or of cravings, of not feeling your best. If you have any questions, drop them for me below. I would love to be of service to you. If you would love to navigate this journey with a health professional, I would be happy to help you. I am a registered holistic nutritionist here in Calgary. I do see clients in person, but I also do have virtual appointments. And if you have questions, you want to book a 20-minute discovery session, I would love to meet you. It is completely free, and we'd love to chat with you. Okay. So thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Mwah.